There is no doubt in my mind now that Zach Wilson is by far the best rookie QB in the NFL. The Jets continue to look like they hit a home run with Zach Wilson at the second pick in the draft. I think he has clearly outplayed Trevor Lawrence, who, by the way, goes tonight against the Saints. I think he has clearly outplayed Trey Lance, who looks, frankly, a lot of times lost in the backfield for San Francisco. Jake, is there any doubt in your mind that Zach Wilson is the best rookie NFL quarterback?
No, I think he's looked really good. I think he's looked really polished, and it's not just the numbers that you look at. You look at what he's doing before the play. You look at how he's looking off safeties, how he's looking guys open, how he understands what the defense is trying to do to him. And I think you start to understand that Zach Wilson is a very cerebral player. He understands, that this game, is very mental as a QB. You have to understand what the defense is trying to do to you and how that compares to the play that you have drawn up. So, based on what we've seen from Zach Wilson, he looks very prepared and very ready. And I think that, in terms of what the Jets are able to do, I don't know that they're a postseason team, but I think they're not going to be that trash, always going to lose team. I think they're going to be somewhere in the middle. And Zach Wilson is going to be a big reason why. And I think, when you brought up Trevor Lawrence, I think when you look, at Trevor Lawrence or Trey Lance or, a little bit with Justin Fields, like there's always a couple of little things here and there that these guys need to work on, and it's different for each of them. Trey Lance, yeah, he does look a little bit over his head in terms of reading defenses and playing at NFL speed, So for him, he's got some catching up to do, which isn't really a surprise based on his track record and where he's come from. Everybody kind of expected that. So I don't really feel like it's a knock on him to say he's not where, Zach Wilson is or Justin Fields or any of these other guys. Trey Lance needs reps. That's as simple as it is. Now, I look at Trevor Lawrence and I say, okay, this one to me is surprising, but also at the same time it's not. So it's surprising that he hasn't done better because he's come from Clemson. He was the number 1 overall pick. He played, basically NFL talent in college all the time. You would figure he'd be in a great spot. But then you look at it on the other side of the coin, you start to say, well, he's from Clemson, and what does that mean? Well, that means that he's had a ton of talent around him. He's always had the best players on the field. Nine days out of 10, Clemson is going to be, out recruiting anybody in the ACC. So at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence, played around talent that was much better than what he was facing. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what he does tonight. I think tonight is one of the biggest games in his career so far. He needs to show that he's ready. He needs to show that he can look a guy off just like Zach Wilson can. And if he does those things, then I think the doubts stop. But he just hasn't quite got there yet. And that's what I think really I'll be looking for tonight.
Well, and the frustrating part is that he hasn't even looked the part. That's been the bigger issue, is that Trevor Lawrence hasn't even looked the part as the best young QB in the NFL. You've seen flashes from Trey Lance. You've seen, obviously, Justin Fields in Chicago has looked spectacular at times. But I've never once said about Trevor Lawrence, man, look at this cat. He looks like a guy that's ready to win a Super Bowl right now.
Just rolling the camp, ready to go.
Like, I have not said that or seen that one time, and I think that's the thing that is so spectacular about Zach Wilson. Being able to look a guy open, understanding what the defense is trying to do to him, reading those defenses, manipulating linebackers, manipulating coverage. You're seeing Zach Wilson do all of that at every level. You're seeing guys like Justin Fields come back to his third read, right? You're seeing Justin Fields take a huge helmet-to-helmet hit, get right back up, put the headband on, everything's fine. You're seeing all of this in these mature quarterbacks. And then you have, and I would put Trey Lance in this same situation. I don't think Trey Lance has looked great, and I know that that's your guy.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's looked great. He's had some throws.
Yeah.
And I know that they're purposefully not running him as much as you would think.
Right.
But Trey Lance hasn't looked the part of an NFL starter either.
Yeah, I think Trey Lance, the thing is again, he's making the throws. He's when the opportunity presents itself, he's making the throws. But there's a difference between, opportunistically hitting that guy who's running up the sideline versus looking a guy open who's running the post route over the middle of the field. There's a difference between understanding, okay, the throw that I'm about to make is going to be into very tight coverage, but it's open and I can get it there. But to do that, I have to do X, Y, and Z, before I attempt the throw, which would be, look the safety off, go through my progressions, have some patience in the pocket. So at the end of the day, yeah, Trey Lance is, like I said, he needs reps. That's what he needs. Like, at the end of the day, that's what he needs, and I do think he will come along. I mean, you got to remember, this guy played, what did he even get a full season? I mean,
Well, Trey Lance hasn't played, I think it's 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think he's only played 1.
Yeah, 2 games. No, I mean, he's played 2 games in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And so when I look at that and the impact that that's having now, I mean, I think he's going to have a lessened effect in training camp, obviously. But if the question about Trey Lance and the 49ers is, if you turn him loose and you allow him to run, is he going to not double clutch on those wide receivers that are wide open?
Yeah.
We saw that over the weekend. That's been the biggest issue, is he's not playing free football. Trey Lance is not just letting the ball go and making the throw that his eyes are telling him to make. And for my money, that's something that until he can do that, you can't start him. Because let's not forget who the San Francisco 49ers are, and I think this is an important distinction. The 49ers are a team that has aspirations of winning a Super Bowl this year. They believe that their defense is good enough with Fred Warner and company to win the division. But if you start Trey Lance, I think you're taking away from that defense.
Yeah.
I think you're taking away from a solid offensive line. I think you're taking away from the rest of that team. Whereas if you play Jimmy Garoppolo back there, Jake, I think you have a much better chance of getting a full team buy-in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Jimmy G, is mobile enough to get the job done. It's not like he's a quarterback that can't move at all. I mean, yesterday, he created some highlights on tape where he ran for a first down, and that was through a what only can be described as a very chaotic pocket, to say the least. So, I think I would start Jimmy G. I think that's the right decision. But at the end of the day, while Jimmy G is starting, you've got to develop Trey Lance. Trey Lance has to catch up mentally. So he needs to be able to. You need to be able to put tape in front of him and say, okay, what is the defense going to do here? He's got to be able to read that in the film room and then take that to the practice field and, continue to develop. And I'm telling you that Trey Lance is a slow burn. It's always been that way. They were never going to start him day one. It was always going to be Jimmy G's job. He's going to sit behind Jimmy G
I don't think that's true. I don't agree with that at all. I think when I look at what Trey Lance was coming to the 49ers, I think they looked at him as a guy certainly that was raw. There was no doubt. But Jimmy G was never the number one guy. He was always the fallback guy. That's who Jimmy Garoppolo was. That's why they didn't trade Jimmy G. That's why they maneuvered to get Trey Lance. So when I look at their situation in San Francisco, you're looking at a guy in Jimmy Garoppolo that was one snap, one execution away from winning a Super Bowl. One play.
Yeah.
And to me, that speaks volumes about the talent that's on this team.
Yeah.
And that talent isn't everlasting. So you have to do what you can do right now to win a championship. And to me, that's starting Jimmy Garoppolo and letting Trey Lance, learn and develop, which is different, by the way, than what I say about a guy like a Justin Fields.
Right.
Justin Fields, to me, strikes me as a guy that I think you have to play now because the Bears are not even a division-winning football team.
Uh-huh.
Now, maybe if you start Justin Fields, they can morph into that.
Right.
He makes the offensive line better. He makes the tight ends better. He certainly makes the running backs better.
Yeah.
I don't see that in Andy Dalton. I don't see Andy Dalton as a guy that's extending a play to the level that Justin Fields is. I don't see Andy Dalton as a guy who can use that arm to cover up some of the mistakes of the offensive line, because the Bears' offensive line is trash. Let's just be honest about that.
Yeah.
And when you look at quarterbacks that can cover for bad offensive lines, it's guys like, you look at Russ in Seattle. Some of their lines have been good. Some of their lines have been bad. He has helped them without a star number one running back. I look at Kyler Murray in Phoenix. That's a guy who's absolutely out of step with his offensive line. And then I look at what's going on in Chicago. You have a terrible offensive line. You have bad tackle play. You're going to get Andy Dalton killed. Okay, well, give yourself the best chance to win. That's why I think you play Justin Fields.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I think, Justin Fields is, like we were just saying, is prepared. I feel like Justin Fields is caught up to the speed of the game. And that's the biggest thing, for guys coming out of the college game, into the league. They got to catch up to the speed of the game. It's much faster than it is in college. So you got to read the defense faster. You got to get through your progression faster.
Yes.
You got to be ready for all of this. And, and this is something that you've been pretty consistent on as well. You can tell, which guys haven't, which guys don't coming right out of the draft. And I think we clearly have, again, Trevor Lawrence is playing tonight, so we'll see what he does. But right now, I have to say that we have 2 definitive yeses and 2 definitive nos currently, which would be yes, Zach Wilson, yes, Justin Fields. I would not say no on Trevor Lawrence. I'd put it more at a maybe.
Or a not yet.
Or a not yet, and then a no on Trey Lance,
I think Trevor Lawrence is the starting quarterback of the Jags. I don't have any doubt about that. With all due respect to Gardner Minshew, I understand that you have to play this game. Trevor Lawrence is your starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Who are we kidding?
Yeah.
You don't draft him number 1 overall. I still don't believe, until he proves me completely wrong, I don't believe that Trevor Lawrence is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I look at Sam Darnold in Carolina now. Look at the plays he's making all of a sudden.
Yeah.
With a little more confidence, a better talent base around him. I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy who thrived on talented players around him, and it made him a better player. Now you're in a situation in Jacksonville where you're far from the most talented team in the NFL.
Yep.
You're far from overwhelming teams on the line, because at Clemson, he always had the best defensive and offensive lines. They won the trench battle every single weekend. That's not going to be the case in Jacksonville. He's going to have to execute at a level that covers up for an awful lot of warts on the face of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I don't think he's that guy. I truly don't. Having said that, I'd start him right now.
Yeah.
Make or break with him right now. But tonight's an important night. I mean, I think you have to see really good progression and maturity out of Trevor Lawrence. He's done nice things, but has Trevor Lawrence had that? Oh yeah, there he is. That's the number 1.
He hasn't had the wow moment yet. He hasn't had the wow. Yeah, this guy's definitely number 1 overall pick. This guy, is going to be able to help us.
Okay, this is the guy that's going to lead us for the next decade.
Yeah.
No, he hasn't had that moment yet.
But you look at these other guys, and again, I'm sure Utah fans are like, you guys are blowing or slurping Zach Wilson this morning. But,
blowing's fine.
At the same, for us, we're just looking at this and we're just saying, hey, man, Zach Wilson's looked really good. He's looked prepared and ready to go. And I just think that, when we talk about that, this guy can lead us moment, Zach Wilson has had those moments already. I think Justin Fields has had those moments already. Yes, he took the big hit, but at the end of the day, he got back up, and that's part of the game. And what do we see on Get Up this morning on ESPN? A highlight reel of Justin Fields and Zach Wilson making plays and running and making throws and all this great stuff. So, look, at the end of the day, this is still preseason, but reading into this stuff a little bit, I would expect Zach Wilson to have a nice year. I think Justin Fields is at risk of not playing for the first couple of weeks, but we'll see. I think it's a very unpredictable situation. As usual, Matt Nagy, you have no idea what he's going to do. You don't know.
Well, and again, I think this is a leadership issue, and that's why you don't have these problems with the best teams. You have probably the best quarterback battle in the NFL right now is in New England.
Yeah.
Right? And I look at Cam Newton and I look at Mac Jones. That's a legitimate quarterback battle. I don't think they know yet. But they have great leadership in Bill Belichick. I don't question that the best guy's going to start. I don't. Then again, I go to Chicago, and Matt Nagy stood up in front of the media on a daily basis and changed his answer because he's terrified he's about to lose his job. So he has no leadership. He has no decision-making. He's not decisive. And that football team, the Chicago Bears, the Chicago Bears are going to suffer for it.
Yeah.
And this is why I say giving Ryan Pace the general manager and the head coach another year in Chicago, it's a mistake. It was a mistake. And I just think that, Matt Nagy is more suicidal than this fly that's going to die in my studio here in a minute.
Are we clear on that?
Yeah, because I don't know what you're thinking. If you don't know who you're going to start, just say, well, we'll make that decision when we need to. You know what? We've got a couple of weeks here. We got some time. I'm not ready to make that decision. Why are you going back and forth? Why are you naming a guy and then unnaming a guy and naming a guy? What are you doing besides causing turmoil in the locker room?
Yeah.
Because all this does is create sides.
Yeah.
Half the room is with Alex Smith. Half the room's with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
It's the same situation where you have a veteran in Andy Dalton who proclaimed himself, this is my time. Well, bad news, Fire Crotch, it's not your time. But now the head coach has gone back and forth, and currently he's on Andy Dalton's side. So half the room is with Andy Dalton, the other half is with Justin Fields, and it makes no sense, and it's completely unnecessary.
Great job, guys. Great job.
All right, cool. Very well done. But in 5 years, who's going to be the best of these quarterbacks?
Man, that's tough. I would have to go with Zach right now, Zach Wilson. I think, the only reason I say that is because he's not a guy, he's not a guy that relies so much on running or so much on passing. He's a guy that's going to say, okay, I truly understand what the defense is scheming here, what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And based off of that, here's what I'm going to do. So to me, we've seen over, throughout NFL history. I mean, obviously Tom Brady, you could look at him. Peyton Manning's notorious for it. Patty Mahomes, like any of the best guys, Aaron Rodgers, he'd say, hey, here's the defense. Here's what we're going to do. Do I need to audible out of this or change the play? Okay, great. Let's do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and execute that play. And it's just really, really exciting to see that, what is he, going into his third week into his NFL career that he's already doing this stuff. I just think it's impressive.
Hey, by the way, real quick.
Yeah.
One of the commenters, Benji, wants to know if, where your nose is at this
Yeah,
morning.
sniffly. I woke up sniffly. I don't know what to tell you guys, I just did.
Okay. Did you take some Advil? Did you.
No.
No, you're just sitting here
Took the vitamins.
slurping your snot?
Yep.
It's the worst feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing you could do.
You could take something for it or blow your nose. But, other than that, there's nothing to do.
I think that's HIPAA.
Exactly right. Welcome to the show. Benji also says that we are overhyping Zach Wilson just to, effing, so,
Just to what?
just to effing bring in the BYU fans.
Oh, right. Because BYU fans aren't plugged in. Right, we get it.
Good to see the comment filters working. James Knight says, morning, lads. Love the shoe wall, Monty. Looks great. Thanks. We did a video about the shoe wall. We rebuilt our shoe room this weekend. I probably have too much invested in shoes. I don't know.
What?
No, there's no such thing.
What?
I have an entire room in my house that is dominated by a shoe wall, and there's going to be more. You can just mark that down. Josh Lovren says, 1 game in 2 years. Jimmy G can hang in primetime. I agree.
Yeah.
Can't hang in primetime. Oh, well. You would not start. There's no chance on God's green earth that this San Francisco 49er team, with what we've seen from Trey Lance, can start him. And by the way, again, I would just say, I'd remind you that Jimmy G had them that close.
Yeah.
So you're starting Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think there's any doubt. Brylark says, over under 6 weeks, Andy Dalton before Fields comes in.
Under.
Oh, way under. I think there's a likelihood that Justin Fields is going to win that job. Now, Matt Nagy yesterday said, well, we have to see what Firecrotch can do with this team during the season. Why would you say that? Why would you? Anyway.
What an idiot!
Kenny says, COVID got me messed up. Awake at 1 a.m. on the regular.
Oh.
Kenny, where are you?
And how'd you get COVID?
Yeah, Josh Levern says, is Trevor Lawrence Rick Meyer 2.0? Meyer could be. Also, should we put so much stock in what we see in the preseason with these rookie QBs, with more teams not playing their ones and their better twos? Well, I think Trey Lance is not running. I think that you're not seeing in Chicago, you're not seeing play action, you're not seeing rollouts, you're not seeing boots. You're seeing a very limited play set. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
But we're not looking for the total package out of these guys.
No,
right
you're
now.
just looking for some semblance of I know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
And Trey Lance is not able to read a defense right now.
Yeah.
He doesn't trust what his eyes see, and that tells you he's not ready. And the 49ers can't suffer through that. You know, Austin Lewis says Monty in the Morning Fantasy League. See, now, and this is a conversation we can have.
Okay.
Okay, so I used to play in like 5 leagues a year.
Right.
It absolutely ruined my Sundays. So this, last year, did I play in a league last year? I don't think I did.
I think you played in one.
I have said that I'm done playing fantasy football. Like, I'm in several pick'em leagues and, you know, survivor leagues. But does fantasy football ruin your ability to watch football on Sundays? I felt like
chain you to a pipe.
right, like that's what I said to Matt Nagy the other day. Like, if you don't play Justin Fields, I drafted Justin Fields #1 in my fantasy draft, coach.
I will downsize your face with a shovel.
If I see Andy Dalton on the field,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, oh, yeah, I get to draft Aaron Rodgers, #1 quarterback. And I'm a Bears fan. Fuck. I mean, no. See? I'm working on the cursing thing.
You're Aaron fucking Rodgers.
I'm not. No, I don't want to draft Aaron Rodgers. On the principle alone, I can't draft Aaron Rodgers.
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is.
Can't do it.
Okay.
Cannot do it. So I struggle to play fantasy football.
Yeah, it sucks. It's hard.
And as a guy who's won a lot of fantasy football championships,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to do what it takes to win because you got to take Packers. You've got to take.
It's
You
true.
know.
You have to take the best players.
Cold-blooded, clean, methodical, and thorough.
Yeah.
I don't want to draft Patriots.
You got
I
to
don't-
take your emotions out of it, bro. You just got to put the best team together.
Yeah. Mike says, where do you guys see the Cardinals ending up? Not in the playoffs if this keeps up.
Ugh.
They have been terrible this preseason, and it is concerning that you have all of this talent offensively outside of the offensive line because Drunky the Clown, Steve Kine, their general manager, doesn't believe in upgrading the offensive line. And I just don't know if I'm on board with Cliff Kingsbury at this point. This offense has not worked. I mean, and everybody's like, oh, you had the play of the year with DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, cool. So you threw a Hail Mary. Congratulations.
Whoa. A Hail Murray.
Oh, a Hail Murray.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Hail
Verticality.
Murray.
We get
Thank
it.
you.
The little guy made a good throw.
Yeah.
We get it. The point is, it's great you've added all this wide receiver talent in A.J. Green, whose feet fall off every third week of the season. But I'm telling you now, they don't have an offensive line. And I don't know that this offense is anything more than a gimmick. I'm really struggling to believe that you're getting the most out of your talent with Cliff Kingsbury's offense.
It's a little surprising to see all the drops, all the miscommunication, just not looking cohesive as an offense. You would expect when you've got AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins that you would be in a great place. Like you would be able to get down the field, do what this offense is about, like all that stuff. You don't have a rookie QB anymore. This is year 3 for Kyler. Like, it's time to get it going, man. Like, we're done. Your college days of, a gazillion yards a season are over, dude. It's time to go and get to the postseason. It's time to start winning ball games. And
I thought we had talked about this, that his name was no longer Kyler Murray. It was Little Kyler.
oh, Lil Kyler or Little?
Lil
Kyler.
L-I-L.
Lil Kyler. Okay.
Lil guy.
Okay.
Hey, little guy.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. Anyway, the point is, it is one of those things where Kyler Murray I think is remarkably talented, in all seriousness. I think Kyler Murray could be an MVP in this league. I just don't know that the general manager and the head coach are in place to get that done. I mean, I think Cliff Kingsbury is great to a certain point, but I think he's never had an offensive line. I think the running game still lacks.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to rely on little buddy Kyler Murray
Listen, they're not
to get it done.
They don't have a foundation on offense. They don't have, like, you can't say in Arizona, oh my God, they've got this dynamic running game that they can work off of.
Well, they constantly bring in guys like A.J. Green and J.J. Watt who always get hurt.
Yeah.
Like we have seen this so many times.
Over and over.
This goes back to the Tyrann Mathieu contract, where you knew we were on the radio the day that the Arizona Cardinals gave Tyrann Mathieu this huge contract.
Y'all about to fuck this up.
And we said, hey, man, this is not going to end well. You're paying a guy that's undersized and always hurt.
Oh, but he's a Pro Bowler, and he's the Honey Badger, and he's amazing.
And he got hurt, and you wound up cutting him.
Oh.
And then you drafted a clone in Budda Baker, who's, I get it, he's a Pro Bowler, and people like him. Undersized, will never be a star in this league.
But wants to play in the box.
I just think that this team, until you change the general manager and Steve Keim, and you get somebody whose neck is not larger or wider than their head, to get in there and be the general manager, and really to the point doesn't take DUIs while driving a Ford Raptor pickup truck, because Steve Keim's just not. There's no other organization where Steve Keim would still have his job.
Nope.
The guy's a joke. He's a laughingstock. And they haven't won. And they don't have an offensive line, and they don't have a running game, and they continually buy bad contracts. And we blame the coaches, and we fire the coaches, and we fire the players, and the general
everybody
manager
else's
remains.
fault.
General manager remains.
Yeah.
And that's what the plague on this Arizona Cardinal team will be. It is, and it's what we always say about bad football teams. You can look around this league. Look at the conversations we've had about the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
If you go back through the history of the Bears, they've never had a great GM who's gotten you an elite QB. I look at quarterback situations. I look at Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. How do you screw that up? Repeatedly. Why haven't you won more Super Bowls? Because you screw stuff up like Aaron Rodgers' contract. That's why.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers should never wear any other uniform but the Green Bay Packers. And I can almost guarantee at this point he will. And it's amazing. It is why teams like the New England Patriots win at the level that the Patriots won at. And now they're spooling back up like they're a turbo in a hot hatch.
Turbo!
Anyway, too far, probably too obscure. But the point is, the best teams have good coaches and good quarterbacks and good line play.
Yeah.
And then there's Chicago Bears and the Arizona Cardinals and the
Mediocre
Jacksonville
teams.
Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins and the Cleveland Browns.
How many years in a row now, for our Phoenix listeners, how many years in a row have you heard in preseason, this is the year, we're going to the playoffs.
We're breaking through. We're winning 10
We're
games.
winning more than 8 games.
Cliffy, he's a sex machine. Let's do this.
Yes. Did you see that picture of him chilling at his house during the draft? Wasn't that great?
Pound and box, drawing up plays. Let's go.
Yeah, like that's what you hear about. That is what you hear about.
Cliff Kingsbury bought a bachelor pad and hung a sex swing over the pool.
Welcome to the fucking show.
Yeah, while designing some incredible offense. Before he got fired and went back to college. Right? Like that's where
fucking execution.
That's where we are with this team.
Yes, dude.
Good Lord,
yes.
Anthony McCoy says Detroit Lions are going all the way. Exactly.
Jared Goff.
Yeah, well, no, Barry Sanders. Anyway, no, that was me being a dick. Sorry. How many head coaches have come into the league from college and were instant successes? Not many. That's really well. Urban Meyer is going to get a test this year. He's one of the best coaches in the history of college football.
Chip Kelly failed. Nick Saban failed. Urban Meyer has a high chance of failing, but we'll see. We'll see. Can't say he failed yet. It's too early, but we'll see.
That's a really tough. But Pete Carroll probably is the best.
Pete
one.
Carroll's the only one that's really come in and done
recently.
things. Yeah.
I would say. I mean, yeah, Chip Kelly was a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer. I don't know that there's been one.
Which tells you,
You know.
I
mean, I if you look back through the history, I mean, Barry Switzer and Jimmy Johnson in Dallas. Jimmy won multiple Super Bowls. Barry Switzer, but, you could discredit that, I guess.
Harbaugh.
Well, John more than Jim. Jim should have won more in San Francisco. I mean,
He got
that's
there.
one of the
He
most.
got there.
He did.
He just didn't
but
win.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah,
Jim
dude.
Harbaugh should have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, dude.
And should have won an NCAA championship, and neither one's happened. It's tough to find that guy.
Yep.
It's tough to find that guy. How was the chicken, Monty? It looked amazing. We'll talk
Dude.
about the Traeger coming up. Brylark says Jimmy Johnson was the last one to do it. I think, yeah, I would agree with that. Sean Mirasinski says, I'm not a huge fan of Meter when the pressure gets too high. Meyer, Urban Meyer, he has health issues when the pressure ratchets up. Could be. Well, and he lets assistant coaches beat their wives. But, I mean, other than that.
Yeah, I mean, he was really counting, right?
I mean, it's not his fault that his players went to the NFL and committed heinous murders like Aaron Hernandez. I mean, you know. God bless Tim Tebow for being a terrible tight end. And by the way, I'll go to my grave saying Tim Tebow should have got more of an opportunity as a quarterback. I just remind you, in Denver, he won a playoff game. And
you telling me that Tim Tebow isn't better than Tua?
Tim Tebow, please. Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa, your mama. I just am not a fan. He's left-handed. I don't believe in left-handed quarterbacks.
Well, thus Tim Tebow's at home.
And before you drop a Steve Young in the comments, there's an exception to every rule, because I know that's coming. There were a bunch of Twitter comments the other day. Well, you said there's no good left-handed quarterbacks.
There's one in like 50, bro.
That's not what I said. I said Boomer Esiason wasn't a great quarterback. You hate the Jets. Okay, well, that might be true, but that doesn't mean that Boomer Esiason's a good quarterback. By the way, Boomer was a Bengal, not a Jet. Let's not forget that. Anyway.
Good talk.
Good talk. Glad you're here. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Man.
All right, let's switch gears.